Haiti has always been a country that has faced a lot of things. And so this time, one of the problems that they're facing is the gang problem there.
Yeah, it's like 200 over 200 gangs there.
Yeah, there's more than 200 gangs over there.
Currently, there are around 200 gangs operating across the country, with many in the capital Port-au-Prince, controlling large parts of Haiti's economy. Rival gangs have increasingly seized control of most of the capital, Port-au-Prince, and more than half of the country.
And those guys, the gangs, a lot of people might not know, but those gangs are armed. Like
Yes.
they're armed to the teeth. Those guys are seriously armed, and they're basically like mini terrorists.
One of the things that people keep forgetting
Terrorists.
is that Haiti is actually very close to the US. And the US, they produce a lot of guns.
Yeah,
So some of those guns are coming from
the US,
the US.
obviously.
Yes, so most of those guns, maybe
All of them.
are coming from the US. So these
Yeah.
people are heavily armed. And one of the concerns with us as Kenyans or the Kenyan government sending our troops there is that, hey, these people have seen things that our people have not seen, especially the police.
Yeah, because
Maybe not the Kenya Defense Forces.
They're sending administration police.
Administration police.
Yes.
Administration police are the police who stay at banks, things like that,
I
or
think so,
or
yeah.
embassies,
Yeah.
things like
But
that.
they do have some paramilitary training.
Of course,
But Sasa,
they do. They have to have some
you
training.
have to think about their life experiences as a police force in terms of administration police.
Of course, we're not trying
Those
to
guys,
diminish
yeah,
our
exactly,
police.
exactly.
We think
but
our police.
we're looking at the greater picture.
Yeah.
Our police officers are used to mandamano, stones, people wearing sufurias on their heads, and so on and so forth. And a few tear gas will disperse them. These guys,
Hardened
they
criminals.
are hardened criminals. They have guns. The other day,
And the thing is, most of these gang members
exactly,
have also
yeah.
received police training
Yes.
or military training.
They were part of the former disbanded army
Yeah.
of Haiti.
Yeah.
So those guys they're super trained. They have a lot of guns and
Yes.
ammunition and whatnot, and they have money because from what I've heard of what I've read,
Yes.
is the gangs were really being supported by politicians
Yes.
or political sects. So a politician coming to power, and they would be sponsoring certain gangs to go and control certain areas of the country on their behalf. So a kind of their own paramilitary.
Yes.
And so that increased the prevalence of the gangs, and they started growing. Yeah, so the politicians are somewhat to blame because they were sponsoring these guys
Yeah.
while there was still a government. Obviously, right now there is no legitimate government in Haiti. There's a transitional council.
But it's not even recognized by the gangs, right? Is it?
Well, so what happened was Ariel Henry or Henry,
Henry.
however,
Henry.
however you call him, was the interim prime minister after the president was assassinated.
Jovenel Moise.
Exactly.
Yes.
So after he was assassinated, he became the leader who was to transition the country to an elected government.
Yes.
But the gangs
He also kept on
delaying it.
elections, things like
Exactly.
that.
And so those guys were getting pissed,
Yeah.
and it started getting out of hand.
But in a way, can you even blame him for delaying those elections? Of course, maybe he had his own sinister plans.
We don't know why he did that.
But the security situation in the country was very bad. I feel like even if
Yes.
they did have elections, they wouldn't have been seen as credible, or there would have still been legitimacy problems.
Okay, from the research I've done, I'm seeing a really big problem with the entire Haiti situation internally without even us being involved. The gangs there
Yeah.
have consolidated, according to reports, 80% of Port-au-Prince, the capital of the city. So they are controlling around 80% or even more
Yeah.
of the city, of the capital, right? That's a lot of power. And this guy who's been going around, what's his name? The guy who's really popular as the leader of those gangs.
Barbecue.
Barbecue.
Michel Rizier, aka Barbecue, is reputed to have burned his victims alive.
He's the leader of the G9 coalition. It's a coalition of gangs.
Haiti's police are out on patrol, trying to push back the powerful coalition of gangs.
And now they said, let's get together, be structured and, organized, because now we're basically in war, right? In war. And there's another big coalition of gangs called the GPEP. That's led by another guy called T.I. Gabriel or
What
something.
does the G stand for? Gangster.
I don't know. So the G9 and the GPEP made a pact, like a truce of some sort in September last year, because of the stories of this multinational force that is being led by Kenya coming to Haiti. So they were like, let's band together, let's have a truce for this part of time, because these guys, they want to bring people, foreigners, into our country to try and solve our problems, and that's what they are against. But this is what I'm seeing there's a big problem with. These guys, they control the airport. Both the two coalition gangs combined, they control a majority of the entire capital. The other day, they released around 4,000 prisoners. They broke into prison and broke out 4,000 prisoners, and there were reports that those guys were so coordinated, they were even using drones that day to prison break those guys. Like, those guys are seriously trained, and they have serious equipment.
The the situation of the prisoners there was also very dismal. It was like so bad.
Yeah.
I think there was even reports of maybe cannibalism.
Really?
Like that. Yeah.
In the prisons?
Yeah, because they're not receiving any food, because the government, there's no government. And the cases.
So who was holding them in prison?
And I don't even know.
Yeah, if there's no government
and the cases, there's somebody who's had a case in court since like 2010 to 09 that have never been had.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But
I mean, there's definitely corruption. We're not
say
trying to
it's
rationalize,
okay.
but
Because
there's
there was
definitely
some dangerous
corruption.
people
Yeah,
there.
there was definitely corruption
Yeah.
in the country, obviously. But now my problem is
Yeah.
when Ariel Henry stepped down after he came to Kenya, they signed that bilateral agreement, a reciprocal agreement, and then he left trying to go back, and they told him, Barbecue, those guys, they told him, if you come back, sorry, actually, you can't even come back. Don't even come back.
Yeah.
So
He resigned.
He resigned.
Wasn't even in the country.
exactly. So this is my issue. There was transitional council set up, right?
Yeah.
With 7 voting members and 2 non-voting members. But when those guys were being sworn in, they were to do it in the palace. But the gangs, kina barbecue, they were shooting up the place, so they couldn't go there. So they went and did it in the office of the prime minister. That's where they were sworn in. But at the same time, Barbecue was saying, even with you guys being sworn in or not sworn in, we want to be involved in the process of putting up the new government.
As a gang spokesman, he oscillates between talk of revolution and threats. He vows there'll be no peace without some kind of unspecified deal which includes gangs.
Aujourd'hui, pour quantité d'armes qui gagne dans le pays, pas gagne un sérieux un gouvernement qui a fait si ou pas une entente avec groupe armé. Quelle était force multinationale, quelle était n'importe force étrangère qui vient dans le pays. C'est un génocide de la vie.
You see, so that is the big problem. Those guys have had a taste of power and they don't want to let it go. That's what I'm seeing. Because if this is what you wanted, they wanted Ariel Henry to step down. He has. They wanted a team of their own people to bring about an election. that has been put in place. Though that 9-member council has been put in place, but still they have not stepped down or even tried to lay down their guns or whatever.
Yeah.
You see, so
Ceasefire, things
yeah,
like
so that's what I'm saying. There's a big problem. Even now,
Internally.
and now with adding the complication of this peacekeeping force or whatever, there are rumors that we are going to disarm them. I don't know how effective we're going to be, because it's, I don't know. The people are extremely optimistic. There are people on the other side who are not very optimistic, because
I'm not very
it's-
optimistic, I have to say.
neither am I, because it's not a really rosy picture. It's not a place we want our police to go. I think it would be better if we sent our army